The lunch rush at Burger Haven was chaos. The smell of fresh fries filled the air. Customers lined up almost to the door while employees rushed around trying to keep up with orders. Behind the counter, a young cashier named Tyler tapped impatiently on the register, clearly irritated with the growing crowd. That's when the door quietly opened. A young man walked in wearing faded jeans, worn sneakers, and a hoodie that looked like it had seen better days. His hair was messy, and he carried a small backpack over one shoulder. To most people in the restaurant, he looked like just another broke college student trying to grab a cheap meal. But no one there knew the truth. The man's name was Daniel Carter, and he was the actual owner of Burger Haven. Daniel had built the fast-growing restaurant chain 5 years earlier. But recently, complaints about rude staff and poor service had been piling up online. Instead of relying on reports from managers, Daniel decided to see the truth for himself. So he disguised himself as an ordinary customer. He stepped into line quietly, observing everything. A tired mother with 2 kids was trying to calm them down while waiting for their order. An older man asked politely if his food was ready, only to be brushed off by an employee who barely looked at him. Daniel took mental notes. Finally, it was his turn. Tyler glanced at him and immediately frowned. "Yeah," Tyler said flatly. "What do you want?" Daniel spoke calmly. "Hi, can I get the student combo meal, please?" Tyler rolled his eyes. "That combo is only for students with ID." Daniel nodded politely. "I understand. I actually forgot my ID today, but I do have the money for it." Tyler leaned forward and looked Daniel up and down. "You sure about that?" he said sarcastically. "Because people like you usually try to order and then suddenly can't pay." Some customers in line glanced over awkwardly. Daniel stayed calm. "I can pay. I just want to order food." Tyler smirked and whispered to the coworker next to him, loud enough for people to hear. "Another broke guy trying to get cheap food." The coworker laughed. Daniel slowly pulled out his wallet. "I'd like the combo, please." But Tyler suddenly pushed the register screen away. "You know what? I'm not serving you." Daniel blinked. "Excuse me?" Tyler crossed his arms. "We've had problems with people coming in here pretending they can pay. If you don't have student ID, you're not getting that combo." "I can order something else then," Daniel replied calmly. But Tyler had already made up his mind. He turned toward the back and shouted, "Mike, we might need security up here." The entire restaurant went quiet. Customers stared. A mother whispered to her child, "What's going on?" Daniel sighed softly. Moments later, the store manager Mike walked out from the kitchen with a serious expression. "What's the problem?" Mike asked. Tyler pointed directly at Daniel. "This guy is causing problems and trying to scam food." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "That's not what happened." Mike looked Daniel over and immediately assumed Tyler was telling the truth. "Sir," Mike said firmly, "if you're not ordering, you need to leave." Daniel calmly placed his wallet on the counter. "I am trying to order." Tyler scoffed. "Yeah, right." Mike turned toward the door. "Security is already on the way." At that moment, Daniel slowly reached into his wallet. Instead of cash, he pulled out a small black card. He placed it on the counter. Mike glanced down casually, then froze. The card read, "Daniel Carter, founder and owner, Burger Haven." Tyler laughed. "Nice fake card." But Mike's face suddenly turned pale. He knew that name. Every manager in the company did. Mike grabbed the card and stared at it again. Then he looked back at Daniel. "You're serious?" Daniel calmly pulled out his phone and opened the company dashboard showing real-time store reports, something only the owner could access. Mike's hands began to shake. "Oh my!" Tyler interrupted. "What? Is he actually someone important or something?" Mike turned slowly toward Tyler. "You just called security on the owner of the company." The entire restaurant gasped. Tyler's smirk disappeared instantly. Daniel finally spoke again. "I came here today because we've been receiving complaints about how customers are treated." He gestured toward the line. "And today I saw exactly what people were talking about." Tyler looked like he might faint. I didn't know." Daniel shook his head gently. That's the problem. You shouldn't treat anyone badly, whether they're the owner or someone who only has $5. The customers nearby nodded. One woman even clapped quietly. Daniel picked up his business card and slid it back into his wallet. Mike swallowed nervously. "Sir, I'm really sorry." Daniel looked around the restaurant one last time. "I didn't come here to embarrass anyone," he said calmly. "But respect for customers isn't optional. It's the foundation of this business." He paused. "Because without customers, none of us have jobs." Tyler stared at the floor in silence. Daniel finally smiled slightly and said, "Now, I'd still like to order that combo meal." The restaurant burst into relieved laughter. And from that day forward, the employees at that location never forgot the lesson. You never know who's standing in front of you.